A growing number of advice businesses are now considering including philanthropy in their value proposition in an attempt to broaden the range of services they offer clients. Today I'm joined by Equity Trustees Philanthropy Manager Sarah Wickham to see how this works in practice. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Maria.
Have you seen a growing interest in philanthropy among the advisors you've engaged with in your role?
Certainly. There's been a significant growth in philanthropy over the last 2 years. I think that comes a lot to the fact that we're seeing a lot of leadership in philanthropy come up in Australia now. Less tall poppy syndrome, a bit more celebration of philanthropy, the likes of Twiggy Forrest. It's certainly garnered a lot of attention to financial advisors. I also believe that financial advisors are starting to see the real values-based proposition they can offer their clients, that really deep and meaningful engagement they can have. And often actually financial advisors are really intrigued by the concept of philanthropy. It's pretty different than what they usually offer in the work they do for their clients. So it's a really exciting space to be in.
What are the key concerns or questions you get from planners who want to offer philanthropic advice to their clients?
There's a number of key concerns, and it's quite interesting. It's actually been reflected in a study that was conducted in 2016 by Queensland University Technology. They did a bit of a study into key financial service industry providers, and it certainly reflects my analysis of the work I do with financial advisors. There's a small number of large concerns, I would say. One is they're not quite sure how to raise the topic of philanthropy with their clients. It doesn't feel natural to them. Often that's because they're not experts in this area, so understandably they want to be introducing a topic that they may not feel that they can introduce and continue from start to finish. Often they don't want to feel like they might be putting their values onto a client, so just because they might think that philanthropy might be a good option, it may not be something they feel that match their clients' values or issues. And I think another key concern is obviously around how do they maintain this relationship with the client. They're often concerned that if by introducing a topic such as philanthropy, it might be something that could really shift the client relationships. So they're sort of the key areas, basically not feeling confident that they're experts, not knowing where to go to find the answers, and a real concern around how that relationship with their client will continue in an uncertain area for them.
What kinds of clients should advisors be looking to raise the topic of philanthropy with?
Great question. I think there's, some obvious things that you need to tick off around the type of clients that would be interested in philanthropy. First and foremost is obviously around the amount of money that these clients have. Structured philanthropy isn't for everyone, so the most important hurdle you have to identify first is the net worth of the client. So structured philanthropy can start at a level as low as $20,000. So to see a client that is able over time to depart with that amount of money, up to $500,000 is what's required to start a family foundation. And also I think another interesting point to look at is this amount of assets a client might have. So they may not be able to give during their lifetime, but there could be an opportunity to make a really meaningful contribution to philanthropy in their will. So once you've ticked, I think, the value that the client can bring to the philanthropy, there's a couple of other key triggers to look for. As a financial advisor, you should have an understanding if the clients are actually giving already. That's the clearest indication that they have charitable intent. And often, instead of making one-off gifts, it's a lot more meaningful for both the charitable sector and the client to use those funds to develop a structured giving vehicle. Other options obviously are clients that are volunteering or have that community or values-based driven passion. Often people don't understand how to start philanthropy, but they have that motivation. So that's another great trigger. Other obvious ones are obviously religion or really challenging personal circumstances. So I find clients when they are faced with life-threatening situations or other shifts in their life, they often think, begin to ask questions about what the meaning of life is and looking beyond themselves and how they can leave a legacy or make an impact. So they're really great opportunities to start the discussion of philanthropy. And I do have a lot of clients where religion has always been key to them. So the tithing system is something they may have grown up with, and as they have continued in their life and been quite successful, they continue to save and then obviously donate that amount to philanthropy. And then I think one very obvious point from a financial perspective is liquidity events. So if a client sells a business, if there is a reason that they have to deal with a tax issue, philanthropy is front and centre in those sort of areas.
What are the different types of charitable giving structures available for clients who are interested in philanthropy?
Yep. So there's 3 main charitable structures that are available for philanthropists in Australia. 2, well, you're giving in your lifetime, and then the 3rd, a gift through your will. So the concept of giving whilst living is still quite new to Australia, being a young country, and these sort of reforms are only being introduced as an opportunity in the John Howard era. And both of those are very different compared to the needs of the clients. So you can establish a sub-fund under a public ancillary fund for a minimum of $20,000, and that's something for clients that aren't particularly interested in managing a foundation, which is very similar to a self-managed super fund. They might be more interested in just where the money is going and working with companies like Equity Trustees and others to establish a sub-fund in an existing public ancillary fund. The second option is a private ancillary fund, and that's a standalone foundation. It's often used by families that want to have long-term legacies and bring in other close family or friends and associates. That starts at $500,000, and as I said, that there are a variety of options for that, but it's often like managing a self-super fund, acting as trustee, managing the investment strategy. It's a bit more of a deeper engagement in running a foundation. And the third option is obviously establishing a trust in your will.
What are the tax advantages clients can access when it comes to charitable giving?
Great question. There's actually several tax advantages, and this is what is really exciting to see the Australian government supporting and the rise of philanthropy. So an obvious one is while you're giving in your lifetime, a seeding gift and every other gift that you give is completely tax deductible, as well as family and very close friends. If they want to donate to your fund, that is also an option for them to garner a tax deduction. Interestingly, when you donate to your own foundation, a private ancillary fund, you can actually spread the tax deduction over up to a 5-year period if that's more advantageous for your tax, and that's something that a lot of my clients speak to their accountants about. And then I guess the third and final issue that's really important to understand is these philanthropic funds operate in a tax-exempt environment. That means that as well as donations obviously being tax-free, they're invested in a tax-exempt environment, and these funds also actually receipt their franking credits. So it means that this money can go very far and do a lot for charity, and it's a very generous tax environment to be operating in.
Do you think philanthropy will become a bigger part of what advisors do, given the large amount of wealth accumulated by many retirees?
Definitely. I think that philanthropy is certainly on the rise in Australia. As I mentioned, the concept of giving whilst living is still relatively new to Australians, but when we see the really significant transfer of wealth that we know is coming this way in Australia, it's certainly going to be an attractive option for many baby boomers and generations of family that will be inheriting large amount of sums of money that they honestly can't use and want to put to better use. And I also think the other reason why this will be on the rise is that philanthropy experts like ourselves at Equity Trustees and other businesses are getting a lot more savvy around how they deal with financial advisors. So we're starting to learn the opportunities to provide training, engagement opportunities, materials and other ways that we can help advisors to raise this topic with their clients, because the statistics in Australia show that it's actually financial advisors that have the most success in raising the concept of philanthropy with their clients, and who then go forth to develop a structured giving vehicle.
Thank you for your time, Sarah.
No worries. Thanks, Maria.